Paris 2024 Olympics opening ceremony sparked significant controversy, with some viewers mistaking a performance inspired by Greek mythology for a parody of the Last Supper. This artistic homage to the ancient origins of the Olympics featured drag queens and other historical figures aiming to celebrate the cultural and religious diversity intertwined with the game's history. Despite the creators' intent to honor the gods of Mount Olympus, many Christians perceive the display as offensive and disrespectful to their faith and their God, because after all, everything must be all about them. Many Christians felt that the ceremony's artistic choices mocked their religious beliefs and demonstrated a disregard for the supposed sanctity of Christian traditions. This clash highlights the often overlooked pagan influences within Christianity and the tension between traditional belief and marginal interpretations. Now, I know that everybody has seen it and many people have talked about it being cultural rot. When they refer to cultural rot, what do you really think that they're referring to? What are they talking about, cultural rot?
When they say, there's a quote from the article that says, many internationally known political figures, particularly from America, condemn the display as a sign of cultural rot in Western civilization. And it says, idea that not being a Christian or not accepting Christianity is somehow like a step backwards or like a decline in civilization, and it's maddening. There was another time a little under 100 years ago where in a particular place, people of a particular religious persuasion were, accused of being the cause of decline in civilization. And those of us that accept, history as reality, know what happened then. And it was a pretty terrible thing. So the idea that not having a specific religious belief is cultural rot is not only silly to me, but I find it dangerous. And it's not the first time something like this has happened. Of course, with Christian nationalism and the push to get Christianity into schools, this is just another example of the same thing.
Cindy, do you think that they may have a point in the fact that, do you think it likely that when Da Vinci, and I know you don't speak for Leonardo or any of his family, but do you think that perhaps his and other Greek mythology could have helped influence how Da Vinci made the Last Supper painting in the first place? I mean, isn't it likely that he borrowed and took things from previous gods, because we know that the scriptures did? Well, what do you think about that? How well do you think Christians really know their Bible when it comes down to what they think happened at this point, or how it looked, or who it seemed like did it? What do you think?
Well, first, I think that what they disliked the most was not that it was a bad depiction of Christianity, but I think what bothers them the most is that we don't see Christianity as virtuous anymore, as worthy of deference. I think that's what they dislike the most in this. But no, we know that pretty much the entire Bible is copied from or derived from other religions. We know that some of the Old Testament is sometimes textbook copy from the Epic of Gilgamesh. We know that many gods or many characters in the Bible are inspired by previous characters. We know that the Yahweh character in the Bible is at first it was a minor god in their religion, but then it was then like promoted. I don't know, maybe it did something good and got promoted. But I don't think that painting in the first place is accurate. I think it's just like the Sistine Chapel and the painting on the roof. It's just art, and art is never meant to be taken literally like the evangelic evangelists in the US take the Bible right now. It's just not. Art is just imagination.
Yes, I would have to agree. Now, Eli, I've got to say that I know there's been some pushback. I don't know if you saw anything about that, about different people talking about how first, it's not the Last Supper, which it isn't, and then talking about how, and I thought this telling, and I was just kind of wondering what you thought about this. He wrote on X, it says, I don't think we Christians realize how fragile we make our faith look when we act as though something like this artistic expression represents an existential threat to us. We have allowed fear and superstition to overtake our public witness rather than love or understanding. Now, I don't know this person, and we probably agree on many more things than we disagree, but I do say that if nothing else, if you're trying to look from a position of authority, I think that this is definitely the wrong way. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think that I hadn't seen that, but I think that person put it very well. If something like this is an existential threat to your beliefs, then there's something you need to re-examine about why the beliefs are that. I almost don't want to use the word fragile, but I do, so I will. And so there was some of the quotes of some of that they tweeted from the art, or some of the tweets that they quoted in the article I wrote down too. There's one of them that says this is extremely disrespectful to Christians, and I think that it's just not, especially because it's already been established. This is a 15th century Italian painter's rendition of an image that was stolen by Christianity from another belief system that depicts a fictional scenario. So it's not disrespectful to anything. It's an homage, like you said. But I noticed, or I had another thought when you said it a minute ago, Infidel, that because it is honoring other gods, that is why they see it as offensive, because of their commandment to honor no other gods. And that's what it is. If they're honoring the Greek gods, which would make sense at the Olympics, because that's where they started, and not the Christian God, then they're going to say, yeah, that's not what you're supposed to do. And as you said earlier, Cindy, they are so convinced that they are right that it doesn't, that the idea of including other belief systems doesn't matter. It doesn't occur to them. The idea is that Muslims and Jews and Buddhists and Hindus and Norse pagans and Wiccans and whatever weird shit, they're a part of this society, and they all have the same right to be this happy little oops on this fucking rock that we're on, and have this the same beliefs and celebrate them. And they just fail to accept that time after time.
I would be more cynical and just say that it's just ignorance. It didn't occur to them that it couldn't be anything else than a depiction of Christianity. But maybe I'm just too cynical. I don't know.
You're probably right on the money, honestly.
Yeah, I do think that they did miss it, and I think you're absolutely right. And that is a sad testament to where we are and where people view themselves. You talk about this. I'm the center of the movie that everybody's watching. It's a little bit like that. But what I did find interesting is one of the quotes that I read said, "This is crazy. Opening your event by replacing Jesus and the disciples at the Last Supper with men in drag. There are 2.4 billion Christians on earth, and apparently the Olympics wanted to declare loudly to all of them right out of the gate in an all capital, not welcome." And I sat and I thought about that, and I said, okay, well, let me sit and ask you then, when I, as not a Christian, see just some imitation or a print of Leonardo da Vinci Last Supper, should I recognize that this is a place that I'm not welcome? Because if me just having something that makes light of it, in your opinion, or does something that you disagree with, is important enough that I'm telling you that you don't exist here, that doesn't make sense to me, unless you're telling me the inverse is true to me or anyone else who may not fit into whatever category that you're trying to sell yourself as. So, Cindy, did you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I think you're right. I would say that the U.S. Christians are the worst self-centered crybabies I've ever seen. Anything you say or do is an attack to them. Like some people saying, I won't say Christmas anymore, Merry Christmas anymore, because I want to include everyone else. That's an attack on Christmas. That's an attack on them. Like everything is an attack against Christianity, and that's right. That's what you just said. It's just they don't understand the difference between I want to take care of everyone's ideas and different beliefs, and this specific belief that you have is equal to the others, in my opinion, and that seems offensive to them, and that's why they feel threatened. Because if I say I'm an atheist and I see all of the religions on the same place, and I say that to someone who strongly believes that his religion is the only true religion and his God is the only true God, then yeah, he's going to feel threatened. But it's not. I'm just expressing what I think, what I am, and it's not an attack on you. It's just it's terrifying how the evangelic movement has changed Christianity in the last let's say 40 years to the point where everything seems to be an attack on them, and they're incapable of thinking.
Yes, without a doubt. That kind of goes into something else I was thinking about. We've talked about before. I think Eli may have been on this episode. We did it about Butker, the kicker for Kansas City, who when all women should stay at home and have babies, and if they keep them in the kitchen, and I'm exaggerating, but not by much. One of the things that he commented on it was, be not deceived. God is not mocked. And I won't bore you with the rest of the blah, blah, blah of the magic spell verse. But then I've got to say, God has a pretty good sense of humor if he won't be mocked. Because if that was him, he did get a little bit. I'll give him that. I might be mad if it was me, but no, I'd probably laugh. Let's be honest. But, either way, God must have a serious thin skin that he would be offended by something that's a half grade up for a chimpanzee that puts on a certain outfit and does whatever, if they're the God that creates the universe and could do all this. I mean, it's like me being concerned on what color blush the ant wore. But with that in mind, Eli, I think that were there any other quotes, or is there anything else you wanted to run by us?
Well, no, Cindy, you were mentioning how they take all of this, and this is a phenomenon I've noticed not just in Christians in America, but like just people in general. And I noticed this a lot recently, that I just haven't had an excuse to talk about it on the show. So this was great, that people tend to not understand what disrespect is. And so these claims that this is disrespectful to Christianity is where that is founded in. Respect isn't, treat me like I'm better than you. And it's not, if I have consequences for my behavior, then there will be consequences. It's recognizing that you can't fucking control what other people do. You don't get to interfere with their lives. Leave people alone that are leaving you alone, and mind your fucking business. And that's really just what respect is. And Christians, like narcissists, love to go on and on about how they're the victims and everything is being shoved down their throats and everything is being done to them. But and how like being a Christian like puts a target on your back because they think they're still living in the Acts of the Apostles, which probably didn't fucking happen, like historically speaking. So every single time we hear about somebody, saying somebody claiming offense or forcing their belief system into the public arena, it's religious people, it's Christians. Nobody's suing churches except for like the people that they've harmed over the years. Good. Like that's what should happen. But because once again, it's Christians causing the harm. And I think this whole idea of like this is disrespectful to Christians is really just rooted in that idea that you started to touch on, Cindy, is that people just don't understand it. It's not just Christians in America. I think it's at least people in America. I don't know about the rest of the world, but just don't seem to understand the concept.
Yeah, I would have to say that people also have this mindset that I have the right to say and think what I want to say and think. And if you don't agree with me, you're infringing on my right. No, you have the right to say anything you want to say, in my opinion. But it's when you turn around and you don't expect me to say, well, that was rather dumb, wasn't it? don't be offended, because then I'm more than willing to defend it's dumb. Now, I'm not wanting people to go around calling people dumb, but at the same time, when you come up against bad things, people have to understand that people are going to respond to that. And Cindy, do you have something to say?
Yes, three things. Regarding your thick skin comment, I would also say that how pathetically weak this God is, that he needs all those people to defend him just by a depiction of something they think is related to their religion. Regarding the respect issue, I think I agree with you, Eli, about what you said. I think it's a very good point. And I would also add that respect is also accepting that even if I think you're wrong, I think your opinion has merit. And I say that while also saying that bad ideas exist to be destroyed, that the minute you express something, it can be criticized and examined and cross-referenced and destroyed if necessary. But the issue about respect is that they don't understand that bad ideas don't deserve respect. People do, and they don't understand the difference often. And so I think that's important to talk about this, because you can respect people, you can not respect ideas, and that's perfectly fine. But also you can, even if you don't respect an idea, you can respect the person because you think that they came to this idea for reason they think they are good. And if you don't, then you don't respect the person on top of the idea. I don't know if I'm clear enough, but that's the point I was trying to make.
And that's clear, because that's ultimately what inclusion is going to have to force. And that is ideas that you don't care for or don't like. Because if I say that you have a freedom to say whatever you want to say, as long as you say exactly what I want you to say, that's not freedom. Freedom has to allow a certain willingness to listen to things and understand things that may make you uncomfortable. Because here's the truth: it may never change your mind about what you're talking about, but what it is capable of doing is making you to rethink other things, because not everything lives in a box. Because you take that knowledge and you understand that, you know what, they have a point about something else, though, maybe completely unrelated. So it's always an opportunity to learn. So if you already conclude, I've got the answer, I'm done, shut the hell up, you've already shown your willingness to be wrong. You may not be wrong, but you're willing to be wrong, because you're not willing to listen to anything someone has to say, even in an uncomfortable situation. Sorry, here I am rambling on again. Eli, another quick thought before I wrap it up?
I would say, I would just add, I think a really good summary of that is that every idea is equally worthy of being destroyed. And I think like that's a thought that I just now had while you were speaking a minute ago, Cindy, but I think that's great. I think that's a good way to put it. I'll say you inspired that. The final thing is that it just seems like the whole, like the Olympic opening ceremony seems like such a non-issue to me. Even if I gave a shit, I still wouldn't give a shit. Kind of like, I don't normally watch the Olympics, but if I did, it would be for the extremely impressive athleticism. There are, some like absolute superhumans are in Paris, doing the most impressive feats, some of the most impressive feats of athleticism in the world right now in history. And the biggest, like, so many people are just focused on this, which just feels like a non-issue. Like it was a performance at the beginning of something that has been happening for thousands of years or hundreds of years. That's kind of where I land on it.
Yeah, and I get that. I get that, the fact that there's so many other things going on. But the truth is, there's so many things that really are relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. And Olympics openings, they have a certain level of memorability. They are a historical event, a lot more than, say, a woman emptying hot water into her sink. Mm-hmm. So with those kinds of things in mind, you have to understand that when Christians show a level of intolerance, you never know where it could end up. And I guess that's one thing to me makes it important for us to remind everyone, hey, Christians, you're not around every corner and every bend. It's really not all about you. Let's just let everybody be everybody. And with that, if you want more of the nonprofits, click below.